Hi, everybody. This is Tom Telementes, and we're getting ready to start here in just a few seconds. We're just waiting to see if any other folks log on, as it is lunchtime in the Midwest and the East Coast, and probably somewhere else. So anyways, just hang in there, and we will get going shortly. Thanks so much. Okay, well, we are going to get started, and thank you for attending our webinar. This is the TSC Explore OnBase series, and today we're going to look at OnBase and the integration for Adobe Sign in this day and age. A lot of folks have, as they're moving to more digital processes, we are seeing more and more use of electronic forms and digital signatures and workflows and reporting, and whether it's on premise or in the cloud, the trend is very strong. So we are very excited when Hyland announced last year this expanded partnership with Adobe for the integration, and so that's what we're going to talk about today. Am I clicking? There we go. I overclicked. These are our presenters today. My name is Tom Telementes. I'm with TSC. I'm there on the left. And we will have Colleen Alber, technology evangelist for Hyland Software, the creators of OnBase. And Colleen will be driving the demo today and is really the product guru on the integration for Adobe Sign. Then we have Robin Fenwick, is a city clerk for the city of Port Orange, who's going to share a little bit about the city and what they're doing with Adobe Sign and workflow and electronic forms in regards to records disposition. And then we have Connie Mae Cooper, also with TSC, who's a solution consultant and a business analyst, and a lot of brain power behind marrying up the technology to the business process. So we are going to, the four of us are going to contribute. I'm largely doing my part now, but we welcome your questions. Please type them in the box as we go through. We like these presentations to be interactive, and so we welcome your questions as we go throughout the process. And a lot of times it's your questions that drive the conversation and help germinate other questions from other attendees, so don't be shy. And next slide. There we go.
Thank you, Tom. And good morning or good afternoon, everyone, wherever you're joining us from. My name is Colleen Alber, and as Tom said, I'm a technology evangelist with Hyland, the developers, the creators of OnBase. And today we're going to talk about the integration with Adobe Sign. So there is no doubt in my mind that everyone on this line knows Adobe. They invented, and I put that in air quotes, even though you can't see me, the portable document format, the PDF. They gained market share and popularity with Flash and Photoshop, Illustrator, Reader. Yet what many of you may not know, or what you recently found out, I should say, is that Adobe is a really strong contender in the e-signature space, and they hold over 20% of the market share. So they acquired the EchoSign product in 2016, rebranded it, retooled it, re-architected it, and now are a fierce competitor to who would be the market leader, which is DocuSign. And for years, we've had an integration with DocuSign, but what we were hearing from our customers, you, is that you wanted choices, the flexibility to integrate with your chosen e-signature provider. So we will be continuing to offer our integration for DocuSign, but also extend our same powerful content services capabilities to the Adobe Sign product as well. And this means that you as our customer can choose DocuSign, choose Adobe Sign, and I've talked to many that maybe have both as well. You know, different business units have chosen different e-signature providers. Well, now you can use OnBase as the hub to all of those departmental solution spokes. You know, Adobe is really an ideal partner for us. They're well established. They've got a strong international presence. They provide reliable solutions. They've got about 22,000 customers. They have been in business for 37 years and more. They're innovative, and important to me is that they have a tight alliance with Microsoft. I also double as the evangelist for all of our Microsoft solutions, so Office and Outlook, and users want to stay in email and they want to perform their content services tasks and their signatures all from the Office suite. And so the tight alliance between those two partners for us is a game changer and really does make Adobe the ideal partner. So that brings us to OnBase Foundation EP5, where Hyland OnBase and the Adobe Sign suite came together to create this new integration. And now together, we can provide our customers the best of both worlds. We can extend OnBase documents to approval processes in the Adobe Sign cloud. Adobe Sign is taking care of all of the legal risk and compliance and security around those digital or electronic signatures. Yet OnBase can manage the workflow process, the rules and actions, the routings, the approvals that need to take place. We've eliminated the printing of documents just for the signature. And most importantly, we're meeting user expectations for digital interaction and experiences. I mean, how many times recently, probably not as many anymore, have you been asked to sign something on paper and you're like, really? Yeah, I mean, users expect the digital signing experience, the ability to review the document and sign it right from their phone. And that's what this integration provides. It allows customers to electronically obtain signatures from both people inside your organization, but also outside as well, which is almost probably even more critical to keep processes moving forward that require that secure electronic signature in the cloud. So here's our agenda today. I am pumped to be on this call with such an amazing team. We've got Connie and Robin who have implemented this solution at the City of Port Orange, and they'll be up to deliver our customer spotlight highlight in a bit. I'll give you a quick overview of the product, show you the software, hand it over to them to tell the story of Port Orange, and then they'll toss it back to me where I'll give you a little bit of the technical tidbits, what you'd need to have in place from an OnBase perspective in order to integrate with Adobe Sign. So let's jump right in. Any questions as I go, type them in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. I'll read some as we go along. And any lingering questions or any that I can't answer, we'll get some answers for you and answer at the end or offline. So we released this integration with OnBase Foundation EP5 around this time last year. We already have dozens of customers using it. And in the most simplest sense, it allows organizations to sign OnBase documents directly from the Adobe Sign cloud. The document lives in OnBase, it's passed up to the cloud for signature and brought back in to complete that process. So the user, the process starts in OnBase. We've got a document at some stage of that business process that requires a signature. Let's say it's a contract. We're ready for those recipients to sign the contract. We send it up to the Adobe Sign cloud. They facilitate the notification of the signer, the authentication of the signer, the signing ceremony, what it's often called, or the signing experience. And then once that's complete, and it can happen anytime, anywhere, from any type of device, we know that the document's been signed thanks to Adobe Sign, and that new, freshly signed document is brought back into OnBase to complete or to continue the process. So the integration is built on OnBase workflow rules and actions, namely the ability to upload to Adobe Sign, intermittently check the agreement status, and then retrieve that signed document back down from Adobe Sign. This is all facilitated via workflow. So really, and Connie and Robin will show this later, this is really just a step of your bigger document process, but it provides that cradle to grave ability to keep the document electronic the entire time. So probably what you've been waiting for is a chance to see the software. So let's take a look at the solution in action. Here I am in workflow. This is in the OnBase Unity client, and I've got a master agreement in front of me that is ready to upload to Adobe Sign as soon as the user executes that ad hoc task. So it can be done automatically where the user doesn't hit this button, but most often we will have that user in OnBase initiating the signing ceremony, because as you'll see, they may choose to do a little bit of work to place those signature fields on the agreement before it goes out, although there are some ways to automate that. I'll bring your attention to the ad hoc task up in the ribbon, and then also to our document information panel on the right-hand side, where we see some keyword values, which we're going to use as part of our signing process, and then also some blank values, which we will complete as the document continues along the process. That agreement ID is the unique identifier that Adobe gives the document in their cloud. Once we send the document to Adobe, we are given back that agreement ID, so that unique identifier that OnBase and Adobe use to talk to each other to be sure that they're always talking about the same master agreement, the same document. In terms of the keyword values, the integration isn't necessarily pulling from keyword values, but instead a workflow property, which for those workflow gurus on, and I know there's a few of you, I recognize some of these names, that can be, of course, mapped to a keyword value in workflow. And then Adobe takes over. The Adobe Sign interface will open to the OnBase user to enter information that wasn't pre-populated. So maybe the signer email, language for the message, other options. And if this user chooses, they can preview the document and add the signature fields. Otherwise, all of those signatures will just be at the bottom of the document, which is sometimes acceptable. So this screen here is, of course, optional. If this process was automated, we'd have to have all of the information, the sender, the recipient, the message pre-built into our workflow, which is certainly possible. But there's some other nice options here. You see the file section in the middle where we see that vendor contract. There's also an option to, let's say, grab a document from outside of OnBase, drag it to this screen. It will combine it with our master agreement so that we've got one document to be signed. I see that used a lot where I want to, give a user a whole packet of documents. So whether it's multiple OnBase documents or some from OnBase, some other, we can combine them all together and send them off to that user. Now at the bottom, I'm going to select, see where that pink rectangle is, to preview and add the signature fields. So now I'm still in Adobe, and we've got our document in the middle, of course. And you'll notice on the right-hand side, all of the different signer options that I have. Do I want their initials? Am I looking for a stamp? Do we want them to sign the document? Do we want date information? And this gives the user the ability in a drag and drop interface to pull those fields and place them on the document, and then of course format them. So I'm not just selecting my date value, for example. I'm also saying, how do I want that formatted? Do I want it written out long ways? Do I want it numerical? In which type of format do I want that document? So here we see an example of how you can further customize some of the fields within Adobe. Now, of course, they have defaults. So if the user doesn't go in and further select some of these options, no problem. They've designed it so that it'll work as seamlessly without all those values. So you see then now this is complete. We're going to grab the signature, the full printed name, as well as the date. And at this moment, our OnBase user is done with their piece of this contracting process. And now we're going to change our hat and flip gears here a little bit. And now I am, let's say, the vendor, and I've received this contract to sign, and I'm in my email. Doesn't matter what email application I'm using, I get that notification from Adobe Sign, because in the OnBase world, this document has been sent out for signature, which means it's now fully in the Adobe Sign process. The user receives this email, which directs them to sign the document. They're able to easily follow the navigable tabs, just like those yellow tabs that, in the old days when I bought my first house in the 90s, you'd navigate through all those mortgage loans documents to sign. Now that's all electronic, which is beautiful. They can read the document and it takes them then right to where the signature is required. They click to sign the document, and they're presented with a screen that makes it as easy as possible. So it's this modal window which displays for the user. They can type it in, they can draw it with their mouse, they can drag an image of their signature over to this box. There's even an option to either, sign it from the phone, of course, or let's say I'm at my desktop, I can enter my mobile number. It will allow me to sign it from my phone with my finger, and it's all captured right here in Adobe. I've seen that option work. It's super cool. And this interface is really slick and easy to use. So your external recipients who are receiving these documents may never have used Adobe Sign before. I promise they will have no problem signing these documents. It's the best of breed, signature solution. And when they're happy with their signature, if they're like me, maybe I sign it too big at first, I got to clear it, I've signed it again. When I'm happy with the signature and I've entered my name, so that's just like entering the printed name, you click apply, verify one final time, and then at the very bottom, I can click to send the document out. And now for my vendor, the recipient of the document, I'm all set. I could get a copy of what I've just signed. OnBase, of course, could send a copy of this document. There's a lot of options. Once back in OnBase, so now I'm the legal team back at my fictitious 9-second foods company, I see this signed document back in OnBase. One item of note, this final signed PDF is coming back as a new document, not a revision, but it can be easily cross-referenced thanks to that agreement ID. So you can see here in my document information panel, I flipped away from the keywords and I'm now on the cross-reference document. I click on that, I can get my draft copy as well as my final copy. And what's nice is that these two documents can remain connected, but because they're different document types, you're actually able to set security differently. For example, maybe the legal team has all of the drafts, but maybe one of our sales associates who works with that vendor can see the final copy. This is available in all of the OnBase clients, so Unity, Web, and Thick clients. And you'll notice even on the left, just one final note here, that this does include a signature panel that offers signature validation. So this is actually validating against the Adobe Sign servers that this document has not been altered since it was last signed. And so with that, that's the gist of the integration. It is a tight partnership between OnBase Workflow and Adobe Sign. I was lucky enough to be part of the project team. I didn't do any of the development work that put this together. And Adobe was absolutely phenomenal to work with. Their APIs, their architecture are really slick. And because this is on OnBase EP5, that means that we're using our modern architecture as well. And I'll get to some of that in the technical section, our new API server and e-signature service and stuff like that. But now for the good stuff, I would like to introduce both Connie Mae Cooper and Robin Fenwick, who are gonna give us a quick overview of how the city of Port Orange is using OnBase Workflow, reporting dashboards, forms, and the integration for Adobe Sign. So ladies, I'm gonna mute myself and hand it over to you.
Great, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
We
yes.
can.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
sound
Just
good.
wanted to make sure. You never know when you hit unmute.
Sorry, it took me a minute. I just muted and then I
That's okay. So as I've been introduced already, I'm Robin Fenwick. I'm the city clerk for the city of Port Orange and have been here since December of 2010. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about where I came from with the city, as far as our records management, and talk about our new integration with Adobe Sign for our records disposition form. So a little bit about Port Orange is we're in Florida, so happy to be in Florida. Love our weather here. It is a city government, city of Port Orange. We have about 63,000 in population, and we're hovering right around 500 employees here at the city. We were incorporated in 1867, and we started with Highland and OnBase in 2009, which was right before I started here at the city. So I've got to see it grow a lot throughout the years, and it's been great to be a part of that growth with it. So we do currently have OnBase and working on the Adobe Sign, and We have one IT applications administrator, myself, and my records management coordinator who all work heavily in OnBase and handle training and all that fun stuff. So our challenges here at Port Orange, when I first started back in 2010, I really felt like I was actually walking into 1970 or so. We had paper everywhere, everywhere. In fact, they were keeping lists of our ordinances and resolutions on little memo pads. So it's just the ordinance number and a brief description of it. So when they wanted to search, it was searching through literally memo pads. So the first thing I did was put that in an Excel spreadsheet, digitized as best I could at the time, so that we could easily search for those records. And then the next thing for digital and automation, I brought in a agenda management process. So we went from printing 16 packets for our council meetings, which was anywhere from 300 pages to, I mean, we've had thousands of pages in our backup materials and all, to that being 0 prints. We do it all electronically now. So we had file cabinets. There was literally paper everywhere. We had a vault that had our charter in it that was shoved in a file drawer. It was really bad. So we desperately needed some central storage location and repository. We wanted to be able to find these documents and records that are public records very quickly and easily. So OnBase has been a big part of that for us. And like I said, we just keep growing it and expanding it to our different departments throughout the years. That was our big solution. And like I said, we keep growing. So, and that growth has included the Unity Forms and this Adobe Sign. And we're working with TSC to do this integration. And we're going to talk about a little bit about what that looks like in the next few slides, and how a records disposition form is now going to be all electronic. I think, Connie, you are up next.
Yeah, so records disposition really is talking about a little bit of that retention, is because as a government agency, there are some very strict guidelines about when you can destroy documents and what that process is, and certifying and signing off on that process is a really big piece, which is where Adobe Sign was an ideal solution, because we were able to capture that digital certificate with the digital signature, verifying that the certification of disposition was correct. So here's just a basic workflow of what the process is, not that complicated. There are a number of sign-offs and a number of acknowledgements that happen before that final disposition and certification is complete. So where it starts out with is a request for records disposition. And this used to be, Robin, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was an Excel spreadsheet that people, or Excel form that people would fill out and make this request, and now it's been turned into a Unity form?
That is correct. Yeah, we used to have our department reps fill out that Excel form, print it out, have their department director sign it, send it to me for review. If I approved it, great, we were done. I sent it off to my records management coordinator, and then they signed it yet again. If I wasn't happy with the records, how they listed them, or their retention wasn't quite right, then I'd have to send it back. And this is all paper forms, delivery, printing, all of those things. So so we've been able to put this in this dynamic Unity form in OnBase that kicks off the acknowledgement and approval process right there in OnBase. So it's been exciting.
So the requester for records disposition completes this form, and upon submit, it does go into workflow. And then in workflow, at this point, the records manager can take a look, and if it needs to be sent back for updates or whatever, that there's ad hoc tasks that allow it. But where the magic happens in relation to Adobe Sign is once it's been entirely reviewed and acknowledged by all the parties that need to acknowledge it, it gets converted from a Unity form into a PDF document that's ready for certification. And so it will sit in the queue waiting disposition. until it's ready to be sent for signature. And that's where Colleen had pointed out an ad hoc task of a send to Adobe Sign. This can be automated, but because there's some very specific validation that has to happen, and having a set of human eyes on it is really the way to go. It's an ad hoc task, and this will send it off to Adobe Sign. And so then once it gets sent off to Adobe Sign, whoops, I went too far. How do I go back? There we go. There is a timer that runs, and we'll go out and poll Adobe Sign and come back with this Adobe agreement status. And there are some very specific statuses that are identified in the MRG for the Adobe Sign integration. And then we can track, or Robin can track then, what the actual status at the Adobe level is, and if it's something that has to be a reminder sent to a party to, you haven't signed this yet, would you check into it? Or if it was rejected for some reason, can contact them and say, you know, why was this rejected? Or in the happy path, if it's marked completed, then the process just continues on, and the whole document management or the disposition process continues through workflow. So some of the really nice things that we've been able to automate for the city of Port Orange is that this whole disposition process is not like a contract process where it's usually from start to finish, maybe a 30-day process, because you're talking about maybe records that need to be sent to the Historical Society, or you're waiting for the shred-it truck to come and get it, and it may be a while. Sometimes these processes can last anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. So there needed to be a way to look at the disposition of all of these documents all at once. So there's a reporting dashboard that has the various queues, so you can say how many documents are in queue at a time. These are drill downs, but I do want to point out one thing. The list at the bottom, it does indicate with indicators, you know, caution or overdue or green check mark for it's in an okay state. So Robin can at a glance see where are things at, and if there's something that needs her attention, it's visually displayed right here in the dashboard. But like I was saying, the drill down allows the tiles above, and the first one there, awaiting digital signature, that's the queue where it's already been sent to Adobe Sign, and we're just awaiting to see what that digital signature status is. So if you click on that, it will then drill down to what the actual status in that queue is. So in that queue, there were 11 documents, 9 of them are still awaiting signature, and 2 of them have been canceled. So very easily, again, Robin can manage what's going on in this life cycle without having to open up every queue individually or necessarily work directly with the with workflow, because the list is all tied to the actual document. So by double clicking, she can open it up and look at the actual document and know what's going on with it. So this is just a sample of what the workflow process looks like. So there are ad hoc tasks that help move the process along, but there's also timers that will check status and have some of these processes execute automatically, just the way you'd expect workflow to do it for you. So that kind of wraps up the workflow process and the mechanics behind what's going on. I'll pause here to see if anyone has any questions so far.
I just had one little follow-up with our new form and the way that we have that dashboard and all. We'll be able to pull up the information that we need for our annual state reports. So every year at the end of the year, we have to tell them how much in volume, how many records we got rid of. So instead of manually going through all those records disposition forms, I'll be able to pull that out of out of this dashboard automatically. So that's going to save us some time there as well.
Thank you for pointing that out. I forgot that completely. With reporting dashboards, that grid that was there does export to Excel, and all that data is already collected. So rather than having to recollect it, like Robin was saying, it's already there, and then just to send to.
Wow, that's great. Such an awesome story and super cool use of reporting dashboards as well, I might add, in addition to the form workflow and signature piece. It's cool to get all of that reporting all in one view. So thank you, Connie. Thank you, Robin. I'm going to wrap us up with just a few technical tidbits. So, kind of what do you need to have in order to begin using OnBase with Adobe Sign? Well, the first is you'll need to be on OnBase Foundation EP5 or greater. You'll need to be using one of our OnBase clients, which I'm sure many of you are. And you will, of course, need to be using OnBase Workflow. Because this is initiated via workflow using that rule and actions, you will need to have the licensing for workflow in addition to that for Adobe Sign. We got a little glimpse from Connie, but just to drive in more into the workflow piece of this integration puzzle, you can see our our one rule and two actions, and a little bit behind the scenes what some of the options are. So we see the two action types, the one rule type here in the middle. I'll point out this check agreement status rule that's in the middle. And you can see some of the different statuses on the bottom. And then, I don't know if you caught it in Connie's workflow, but then based on that agreement status that we get back from Adobe Sign, they're routing the form to various places for follow-up. Either it's all set, we're ready to destroy these records, or we need to remind someone again, or maybe there's a change that needs to be made. And all of that can be done thanks to workflow. Because this is new in EP5, the good news is that it does use the new API server and our new e-signature integration service, as well as the Highland IDP. So those are new architectural components. So not only will you need to upgrade to EP5, but you'll need to have these new pieces in place before you get started. There's more information, of course, on our Highland community, community.highland.com. A video very similar to this, some recorded demos, our module reference guides, documentation, screenshots, anything that you might need to learn a little bit more about this integration you can find on Community. When you feel like you're itching, you're getting ready to really and excited to maybe play around with the integration, a good place to start, in addition to maybe getting a test license, would be to go to try.highland.com, where you'll have an opportunity to launch a demo lab where you can play with the integration that is fully licensed and ready to go. Just experience the software for yourself, get underneath the covers and take a look at what the integration components are, what a sample workflow might look like, experience signing a document in Adobe Sign, and that is try.highland.com. So we will see here if there are any more questions, and I don't see any additional questions in at the moment. We have gotten to some offline just here in the chat. So Tom, I will pass the microphone and the clicker over to you to close us out.
Super. Thanks, ladies. Excellent presentation today. Some significant technology for folks in regards to improving processes, saving money, saving time, improving efficiencies, getting compliant, and make sure and all your T's are crossed and your dots and I's are dotted. So anyways, a lot of good stuff there. And so we want to, as we're closing out here, I'm sorry, there we go. I want to quickly talk about OnBase Managed Services. OnBase Managed Services is offered by TSC, and what this allows you to do, if you're not familiar with it, is we provide as a service some additional support for OnBase, and that can be multiple levels of support. It could be as your tier 1 or tier 2 provider, and it's basically the opportunity to outsource some of the administration of your system and come alongside your IT team to do some of the heavy lifting for OnBase, or do some of the support issues that may come up from your organization. So a lot of things that we do there for OnBase managed services. But anyways, we are within the OnBase community, recognized for our expertise. All of our engineers, well, our engineer team averages about 20 years with the OnBase platform, and everything from configuration, implementation, integrations, development, and so on. So just wanted to draw your attention to that. If you have a need in that area, or you want to talk about some things that we can do for you on a short-term or long-term basis, we welcome those conversations. And also find us on LinkedIn, follow our company page. As I mentioned at the outset, we are in the middle of our Explore OnBase series. And what you see on the screen is some of the upcoming webinars that we are going to be looking at integrations for Workday and Salesforce and our OnBase API tools that are available for integration. So we're doing these monthly. And so if there's something that you would like to see specific for an application or an area in your organization, maybe for human resources or accounts payable, or something specific to insurance or banking or healthcare, please submit those recommendations to Heather Heath, our marketing coordinator. You see her email there on the screen, and she is managing this, all the webinar series for us, and we'll get those in the queue. But that is largely it. We appreciate everyone taking time another day to learn more about OnBase and integration for Adobe Sign. And thanks to the team for presenting today. And we look forward to seeing everybody next month. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Robin and Connie, and everyone on the line. See you all at Community Live.
Yes.